3 personal upgrades to help your king hear and understand you with less arguments and shutdowns. The first one is one that I see a lot, and I was guilty of 100%. Like everything I'm talking about here is from personal experience, but also working with other married men and women. So the first one is lack of consistency. And this is on both sides. It's on both sides, y'all. So here's the thing, right? Especially with women, you're very considerate, you're very giving, you're very mindful when your husband is acting right. You're loving, right? You'll over deliver, you'll over give, you'll overdo things when he's acting right, when he's doing exactly what you want him to do, right? But as soon as they don't do that anymore, as soon as they act different, as soon as they don't give you what you want or act the way you want, what do? We switch up. We switch up, right? The minute you don't like something, you switch up. And so what does this do? If every time if I give to you and I give to you and I give to you, and you normally act the way I like the way you act, but then you switch up, you change, or you don't do it the way I like it, and I switch up on you, what is that doing? That's creating a very transactional relationship. It's creating a transaction. Like when you go to the store, I give you money, you give me my product. When I go to some of you go to the spa, I give you my money, you give me your service. And so that's one thing that I see a lot of women doing with their husbands. I give you my love, I give you my attention, my affection, and you give me what I asked for. But the moment you switch up, the moment you act different, I'm not giving that to you no more. What is that doing? What is that doing? Let me know in the comments. What is that doing? It's creating a transactional relationship where it's only I do for you when you do for me. But the moment you don't do for me, I don't do for you anymore. It's called a transaction. And so we have this mentality, or we picked up this mentality that as long as you act the way I like, I'll give you what you like. But the moment you act the way I don't like, I'm not giving you what you like anymore. Type guilty in the comments. I'm guilty. But I'm here to remind you, sis, that that's not love. That's a transaction. That's not love. That's a transaction. Right? Because here's the thing that we've learned in society. Because you learn to give him X and he'll give you Y, that's how we operate. Men want this, so give them this, and they'll give you that. Men want X, and then if you give them X, they'll give you Y. What is that really doing? It's turning the relationship into a transaction, number one. But number two, it's also making things, it's turning it into a manipulation series. It's a series of manipulation, right? Yes, a series of manipulation. And so here's the thing, relationships are not transactions. We don't want a relationship where it's transactional. You give me this, I'll give you that. That's not what we're looking for. And so if you resonate with that, if the moment your husband stops or changes acting the way that you normally like or the way you normally want, you keep switching up, I want you to make this personal upgrade. And that's number one. Upgrade number one. Be more consistent. Be more consistent. Show up for him even when he doesn't perfectly show up for you. Show up for him even when he doesn't perfectly show up for you. Because here's the thing, Queen, he's not always going to perfectly show up for you. There's not one man on this earth, I don't care what he does, how much money he has, no one's ever going to show up perfectly for their spouse, man or woman. It's just not going to happen that way. And so what you want to do within yourself is become more consistent. Why? Because we believe in reciprocity. And so the more consistent you are, the more consistent he will be. And that will also push you to be more patient with him. Because a lot of us are like, I want you to act the way I want, and I want you to do it now. I need you to make those changes immediately. I need you to implement this feedback right away. And we're putting all this pressure on him. And that's not, again, that's not unconditional love. That's not being more consistent. That's just, as long as I give you what you want, you need to give me what I want. Okay. So in order to eliminate the transactional environment in the relationship, be more consistent. Don't be switching up. Be very consistent. So that's the first upgrade to getting him to understand you better. Because Zakah, what does that have to do with him understanding me? Because in order for him to understand you, he needs to hear you. But if you're switching up all the time, how is he going to hear you? You're not showing consistency. You're not showing a consistent character, a consistent person, a consistent mindset, a consistent perspective. You're switching up, right? And so what does that naturally do? If you personally know someone, let me know in the comments. If you personally know someone who's always switching up, are you going to trust them? No. You're not going to trust them. You're not going to trust what they're saying. You're not going to hear what they're saying. You're not even going to want to understand what they're saying because they switch up too much. And so what do you want? You want him to trust you. You want him to trust you. You want him to see that you are consistent and that you're patient and that you're loving and that you're kind. And even if he's not perfectly showing up, you're still going to remain consistent. Because let's be real, some of us are expecting perfection out of our husbands. You're expecting perfection out your man that you won't even give, that you don't even have. Guilty. Some of us are expecting perfection out of our husbands that we don't even have. How does that work? We gotta have mercy. We gotta have patience. Number 2, a lot of women are trying so hard to reach their husband's soul. They're trying so hard. Let me in. Let me in. Let me know what's on your mind. Tell me. I want to know. I'm here for you. They're trying to reach their husband's soul, but they can't. Why? Because their husbands feel disconnected from them. And so the truth is that there's a long list of things that disconnect couples. There's a long list. There's a bunch of things that cause disconnection, distance, all that. We talk about it a lot in our 5-day challenge. We talk about some of those things. But there's a long list of things that cause distance between a husband and wife. But there's a specific list of things that women do, that we do, that encourages their husbands to distance themselves from them. So there's a long list that both husband and wives do, but there's a specific list for women that literally pushes their husbands away. Okay. I can't go into the whole list in one live stream, but one of those things is that your priorities are out of order. Your priorities are out of order. Okay. You're trying to do it all. And I know. Guilty. Right? Trying to do it all. Be the wife, be the mom, be the businesswoman. You're in school. You're learning, you're studying, you're teaching. You're trying to be it all and do it all. Because who else is going to do it? Who else is going to do all the things that you do? Right? But while you're trying to be it all, do it all, your priorities are all over the place. They're not in order. And guess who suffers that the most? It's not your children, love. I'm going to tell you that right now. Who suffers the most? Your husband. Your king. He suffers the most when your priorities are out of order. Why? Because he doesn't come second. And a lot of times he barely comes third. He rarely even makes it to fourth. He's usually 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th. I guarantee it. Zakah, how do I see where my priorities are? Your priorities come down to 3 things. Where you put your time, where you put your money, and where you put your attention. Your priority comes down to those three things. Where are you putting your time? Where are you putting your money? And where are you putting your attention? So when you look at those three things, you'll be able to tell where your priorities are, where most of your priorities are at. A lot of times, our husbands are not first. Okay. And I see it all the time. All the time. And I'm not talking about like, oh, when I make dinner, I put the food on his plate first and I serve him first. That's not what we're talking about here. When I say priorities, I literally mean priorities. Look at your daily routine. Now that you look at your daily routine, look at your weekly routine. Look at your life on a weekly basis and see where your husband is falling in the midst of all that. But Zakah, I work a job. Zakah, I work like 8 to 10 hours. Zakah, we got like 5 kids. Got to make sure the kids are good, Zakah. I hear it all the time. I know. I understand, love. But if you want your husband to understand and hear you better, you need to get your priorities in order. That's upgrade number 2. Get your priorities in order. It's something that is so common. Every woman that comes into the CPR marriage program tells me the same thing. And I always see the same thing. They first come in, their priorities are out of order. So what do? We got to put them priorities in order. Right? That's number 2. Upgrade number 2. Get your priorities in order. Upgrade number 3. Okay, drop a 3 in the comments if you are ready for upgrade number 3. Let's talk about the problem first. Okay, this one is near and dear to me. This upgrade is so important. So here's the problem. You're unattractive. We are unattractive. Type unattractive in the comments. And when I say unattractive, I'm not talking about physically. We have unattractive habits, we have unattractive patterns, and we have unattractive perspectives. We're unattractive. Okay? And so here's the thing, right? We have habits. A lot of women have habits that they've learned from their mothers and from society, of course, right? Your mothers who grew up in a society where they weren't recognized, they weren't valued, they weren't supported. They were sold that independent woman dream and then passed it on to you. Right? A lot of us are the product of that. And so I bring this up because it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's not nobody's fault. But that's something that was just adopted. Right? And so the truth of the matter is, nonetheless, whether it's no one's fault or something that we adopted, that we grew up in, it's still unattractive. It's still unattractive. Right? And so what do we have to do instead? Because our habits, the way that we talk, the way that we say what we mean, our attitudes, all of that is unattractive to our husbands. It's unattractive. And so what do you need to do? You need to reprogram. You need to reprogram. Why? Because you've been programmed. We've been programmed. You're talking about 30, 40 years of programming. 30, 40 years of programming that you have to deprogram. That's a long time, right? And so what do you want to do? You want to dedicate yourself to changing those habits, those patterns, that way of thinking, that perspective, that mindset. We got to reprogram. And a lot of times, here's the thing, you're not going to see it. You're not going to see where the habits, the patterns, and the perspectives are that are unattractive. 9 times out of 10, your husband's been trying to communicate it to you, but because he doesn't know how to say it, he doesn't know how to pinpoint it, he doesn't know how to explain it to you, it just comes out wrong. And instead of taking feedback, you take an offense, right? And so I know I'm getting into like the nuances and the nitty-gritty right now, but that's something we got to do. We got to reprogram, okay? And so have someone else call you out on your patterns because you won't see them. Have someone else call you out on your habits because you won't see them, right? And so another one is the one that no one talks about. A lot of people talk about the male ego. Men's ego. You got to stroke the man's ego. Men have a big ego. No one talks about the female ego. No one talks about it. Okay. We don't see it, but there is a female ego. That if you belittle us in any type of way, if you speak to us in any type of way, right? Our response is going to show you our ego. We want to be praised for everything we do. That's ego. We want to be seen all the time. That's ego. I'm the woman. I'm doing it all. That's ego. Right? And so we got to get rid of all that because it's unattractive. And when it's unattractive, it's hard to look at, it's hard to listen to, and it's hard to understand. So if you want to help your king, your husband, your man understand you better, receive you better, hear what you're saying, you got to become attractive. And it don't matter how much makeup you got on your face. I don't care how much you paid to get your hair done. It doesn't matter how much your outfit costs, whether you got heels on or chancletas on or a bag or whatever the case is. You can look gorgeous from top to bottom. You can look gorgeous from top to bottom. Let me tell you something about these men. Physical beauty, when the inside ain't right, they could care less. They could care less. They'll care for a moment and then it's done. They could care less. Right? And so in order for him to want you, to receive you, to hear what you're saying in a way where you don't have to get frustrated, you got to become attractive. How? Reprogram. What your relationship was like in the past does not have to be the same kind of relationship in the future. You have the power to change it. You have the power to change it. And I encourage you to do so. Why? Because it's going to uplift you. And that uplifting is going to have an uplift in your marriage as well. I guarantee it. I've never failed to see that. Right? So let's back on track. I digress, y'all. I digress. Let's get back on track. So upgrade number 3 was to become attractive. How? By dedicating yourself to reprogramming and changing those habits, those patterns, and those perspectives. All right, y'all. So those are the 3 personal upgrades that you can make to help your king hear and understand you with less arguments and less shutdowns. All right. Okay. Everything that my husband and I teach are really things that we have learned personally, are things that we've learned working with clients, are things that we have just experienced in life and experienced firsthand, secondhand, and things of that nature. So when we bring this content to y'all, when we bring this information to you, it's not just for you to, have a little burst of inspiration, but it's to bring some insight, right? And that's what we like to do inside of the Married Couple Society specifically, is to bring insights, to bring real solutions, okay? So if that was beneficial to you, let me know in the comments. All right, y'all. So that is it for Marriage Talk Tuesday. Again, this was an awesome ladies only awesome ladies only marriage talk. If you like this and you want more talks like this, we've done a couple in the past, but if you want us to bring them back, ladies only talks, fellas only talks, let us know in the comments. One last thing, please remember that the doors to enroll into the CPR marriage program are still open. And that is a 3-month marriage experience for married husbands and wives. So you probably you've probably already seen it. If you're interested, all it takes is for you to apply, okay? Apply and we'll hop on a 45-minute phone call with you and really see if all of what this program is what you're looking for. If it's what you're looking for, if it's a good fit for you, go to bit.ly/CPR your marriage. I'll drop it in the comments. --apply and submit your application. Once you submit your application, we hop on a 45-minute, no cost. It's a no-cost call. It's basically a consultation to see what is going on in your marriage, getting into the nitty-gritty of where you're at now, where you want to be, and then we're going to give you some action steps and some things to do to focus on in order to get there, right? So if you want to hop on that call, go ahead and submit your application, and after you submit your application, you'll be redirected to book a time that's good for the both of you, okay? Both of you got to be on that call. So with that, I can't wait to see the rest of you. I'll talk to you soon. Peace and blessings. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'm Zakah, and I'm out.